at our Dedham facility. 2 offenders being held here at the facility, as well as 2 women known to those men. Those charges will include drug conspiracy, delivering drugs to a correctional institution, possession of Class B drugs with the intent to distribute. These serious charges stem from an investigation launched by my office after receiving intelligence on August 1st of alleged illegal activity involving a probationary corrections officer who was hired in April of this year after he had undergone a significant criminal background check, screenings, testings, as well as intensive training. The Norfolk County Sheriff's Office acted immediately after receiving the intelligence that we gathered. That officer, Gene Garan of Saugus, Massachusetts, was questioned by our investigative team on August 1st before the start of his shift, and he admitted to providing the narcotics to the offenders 3 days earlier. Garan was immediately placed on leave, escorted off the property, and terminated the next day on August 2nd. Garan was immediately placed on leave. The drugs that were involved are Suboxone, which is a major contraband issue at correctional facilities across the United States, and one of the main drugs used to treat opioid addiction. The Norfolk County Sheriff's investigators found 238 Suboxone strips hidden in 2 pomade containers taken from the offenders' cells during the investigation. The container is here to my left, and obviously the Suboxone strips are to my right. The approximate value of those strips in a correctional setting is approximately $47,600, a significant amount of money to be made inside a facility. Based on surveillance video, interviews, and an electronic review of phone calls, our investigators determined that 4 other people were involved in the alleged criminal conspiracy with our officer. They include offender Dante Clark, birth date 6/22/99 from Dorchester. Offender Cornell Bell, date of birth June 8th, 1995, from Quincy, Massachusetts. Evelina Foston, date of birth February 4th, 2004, from Brockton. Amaya Rogers, date of birth June 26, 1997, from Boston. Clark and Bell are both being held here at our facility in connection with an alleged murder in Quincy from August of 2002. Complaints seeking 2022, Mike, excuse me. Complaints seeking charges of conspiracy, delivering drugs to a correctional facility, and possession of a Class B substance with intent to distribute against all 5 suspects was filed in Dedham District Court on August 23rd, 2024. This probationary corrections officer betrayed the honor of the men and women who serve with honesty and integrity as dedicated corrections officers in Norfolk County. We hold ourselves, our staff, to the highest standards in corrections. We strive to hire men and women of good character to ensure those who are brought into our agency and those entrusted to lead are grounded in the foundation of our mission and our values. Our investigators say this case dates back to about a week prior to July 29th. Garan told Norfolk County Sheriff's Office investigators that he was approached by offender Dante Clark to, quote, bring something in for me, end quote. Garan also told our investigators he never received any money which he was promised. Garand also said that he was not coerced to help the offenders and said he was not sure why he was recruited by them. Garand said he was initially told by offender Dante Clark that the drugs involved would be K2, which is a known synthetic marijuana. It was not. It was Suboxone strips, as we see. Those strips were hidden inside a Wendy's fast food bag that was handed to Garand by Amaya Rogers in our parking lot here at the correctional facility on the night of July 29th. Garand told Norfolk County Sheriff's Office investigators he then tucked the drugs between some trash bags when he returned to the offender's housing unit and later handed those bags to offender Dante Clark. Our investigators determined the other women involved, Avelina Foston, had gained access to the narcotics at the direction of offender Dante Clark and offender Cornell Bell. Foston had given the narcotics to Rogers for drop-off at the correctional facility after Foston had failed earlier in the day on the 29th to get the narcotics and the money to Garand. All of the suspects have been summoned to Dedham District Court for hearings in early October, separate hearings. This is a remarkable feat for our investigative staff, and I want to commend our investigative staff for doing that. Certainly our Assistant Superintendent, Tom Brady, Captain Stephen Linsky, Assistant Deputy Superintendent Bob Russo, and our Chief Investigator, Assistant Deputy Superintendent Bill Castile. These officers, these leaders of our organization, work day in and day out along with our corrections staff to make sure that this facility remains safe and secure for the offenders that come here. The vast majority of those offenders that are here, whether waiting pretrial or are sentenced, are dealing with significant substance use disorder and mental health issues. And so the last thing that we want to see is drugs being entered into this facility, especially when our number one role here at the Sheriff's Office and in our correctional facility is rehabilitation before these men go forward and back into their communities. So we take these charges very seriously, and it is truly a disappointment to watch a corrections officer who should have known better, was trained well for bringing into our facility this illicit drugs. But I commend the corrections officers who responded, our investigative team for making this happen, and we will proceed to determining what the outcome will be, and that will be in the hands of the Dedham District Court and potentially soon to be the Norfolk County District Attorney. So that concludes at least my remarks, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that anybody might have.
It sounds like the corrections officer was cooperating to some degree with your investigators at this stage of the game.
He fully cooperated with the investigation. He was immediately brought in for questioning. He was Mirandized, and he was informed of his rights. He did cooperate with us. He gave us pretty much all the information that we needed to act and take the action that we did take. It's a sad state of affairs that he is now going to have to proceed with the criminal complaints against him, and but for our agency, it's something that we can't tolerate. And we're glad he cooperated. It's sad that with all the training that he had, with all of the warnings and the supervision and the trust that we gave to him, that he violated that trust.
He was on probation, so he was just starting this job, right?
He just started in April. And this is a real, we do a lot of work to recruit the best out there, and we've done some really great things in terms of how we recruit officers. Law enforcement and corrections have changed over the last decade or so, and specifically corrections. You know, we have a very modern 21st century approach to correction, so we're looking for very well-rounded individuals to come into this agency to fulfill the mission of the agency, and it focused on rehabilitation. And clearly, this individual, you know, sold himself for $5,000 and money that he never received. And whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, it's a violation of the trust that we entrusted in him. And now he's going to have to be accountable for his actions.
How long are officers kept on probation before becoming full-time?
We usually have them on for about a year. Those that we reserve the opportunity to extend that for people. It's very rare that we do. Sometimes we need to have additional training, but you know, our training staff here is very thorough. Our vetting is extremely thorough. We have a lot of folks that come into the facility and realize it's not for them. But our field training officers, our sergeants, our lieutenants, our supervisors are really hands-on when it comes to these new trainees, and so it's a disappointment to them too. And I feel bad, and I just want to encourage our staff that we're doing really unbelievable things with our new employees here. And unfortunately, this individual just failed to do what we trained him to do.
I know you sort of walked through the conspiracy stuff. This is only one transaction that you know of at this point in time already, so far.
Yeah, you know, we're pretty thorough over the course of, you know, just that this is, you know, an isolated incident, really. What we do on a consistent basis is we make sure, and, you know, there's a lot of coming and going in a correctional facility. We have offenders who are going to court on a day-to-day basis. We have visitation that comes in, loved ones that come in. So we're constantly vigilant about drugs coming into the facility. And it's pervasive throughout, not just, you know, it's not just Massachusetts, but everywhere. And so all corrections facilities need to have a heightened awareness of that. And because of the nature of the drug addiction issue, people will go to great lengths to get drugs into the facility. And so we have a heightened scrutiny on people coming back from court. We have a heightened scrutiny of people coming in to visit their loved ones. And so we've been blessed with very few incidents over the course of my career here, over 4 years as sheriff. And I give a credit to the staff for that and that heightened awareness. And so this is an isolated incident. It's the first time we've had, at least under my tenure, a corrections officer in this situation. So it's disappointing, but I'm very, very happy that our staff acted so swiftly. And it's something that we don't tolerate. And that's why, you know, as soon as the investigation was clear and convincing to me, that terminating that employee was immediately done. So, yes, sir.
Sheriff, were there any drug overdoses or drug reactions to the product that was being brought in?
No. At this stage, no, there was no. We actually don't. I don't think there was much distribution of it at that stage of the game. Like I said, it was actually found after it was found fairly quickly, right afterwards. And like I said, the offenders will go through great lengths in terms of hiding things. So, you know, like a gel container like this is something that's available for purchase. I assume that this was probably purchased from our commissary that comes in. These are all opportunities for people to buy hygiene products and things like that, and so it was probably holed out, and then the strips were then put in
the
there.
Actual strips, and this is what was in.
That was where they were hidden.
And is that them right there? That's
yes.
A small wrapper there.
Yeah.
All of them are in just that one.
Just wrapped up there. So this is once unfolded for everybody. So
it was discovered in the jail here.
It was discovered in the offender's cell. So what ends up happening is once we go through the process of our intelligence gathering, we kind of are made aware. Our officers are made aware of what the situation is, and then once we go in, we do a full breakdown of their cell, and we determine. They eventually find where these things are being hidden. Sometimes it's in a mattress. Sometimes it's wrapped up in.
I guess I just wanted. I know you sort of walked through how it went, but could you sort of go again just to make sure they're clarified? So the women who were they're outside the prison. They were the ones who sort of acquired the Suboxone.
Correct.
and then the corrections officer accused of taking it from them and then bringing it into the prison.
Yeah, there was kind of a mix-up with them, and there was supposed to be a meeting of our former officer, with one of the women, which didn't happen, and so therefore it was determined that communication was made to the other woman to come and meet him in the parking lot, and that's where the Wendy's bag came into play, and the drugs were brought in through the Wendy's bag out in the parking lot. Literally, it's, there's, like I said, the coming and going of officers and people coming on break and coming back into the facility. We do a great job on screening everything, but like I said, the quest for perfection isn't quite perfect.
So typically, the corrections officer who brought the Wendy's bag in, they would be screened or...
Correct.
Yeah. Was it not done in that case?
On that particular case, it's our understanding that what was screened was the officer's backpack or his side bag, which is typical, but it's a breach of protocol. Even a Wendy's bag or a pizza delivery, all of that stuff should happen, and that's the unfortunate nature of this. And we've addressed that as a staff with our team it's a heightened awareness and the break of trust, though, and that's the sad part. And I mean, I remember dealing with the same kind of situation when I was the clerk magistrate over at the probate and family court, and we required everybody to go through metal detectors, including the attorneys, because you just don't know who's going to be trying to do something. And sadly, you try to trust your colleagues that they're going to do the right thing, and you just don't think that a midnight snack is going to turn into a major drug conspiracy.
Maybe you mentioned, but how, again, when you were alerted to the fact that it had come into the jail?
So our investigative team does enormous. They have a lot of different techniques that they do use, and it's something that we wouldn't necessarily fully disclose to everybody, because that would kind of screw up their operations. But our investigative team, as I referenced before, do a lot of work within the facility, always monitoring communications, monitoring what comes into the facility, acts on communications that come in. So those investigative techniques have been remarkable in terms of the amount of things that we've prevented from happening is amazing. And unfortunately, this one, got through, but the follow-up of our investigative team to get that investigation rolling and stopped immediately before it turned into something more deadly, like an overdose or something of that nature.
And specifically, this was found in Dante Clark's cell.
This was in Dante Clark's cell. Yes,
yeah, okay.
That was.
And how many people are detained in this facility?
I think as of today, we had like 317. I want to say roughly. It kind of changes every day, and I didn't look at today's official count, but it's roughly about 300. What do we got? 323 today. So.
And that's always changing.
It's always changing. It just depends on who gets arrested and who gets detained or who comes back in from court on any given day. But our facility, that basically we're theoretically at capacity at that stage of the game, and we're fully staffed here, and so we're
You said investigative team. Is there a full-time investigative unit here at the sheriff's office, or does it just come about if there are?
Yeah, so we have a full-time team, as I mentioned before, and it's led by Assistant Deputy Superintendent Bill Castile, who's with us today in the back, and he's assisted by Captain Steve Linsky, who it's a full-time gig for them. And it's not just about drugs; it's about communications, about gang violence. It's a whole host of issues that our investigative team has to deal with. There's a lot of communications in this facility that go in and out, and so we're constantly monitoring, making sure that there's whether it's drug activity or violence against each offender on offender, or hits that gotta go out the door technically to the community. So the investigative team is a full-time experience, and they do an enormous job to get results for us.
Can you highlight?
It's got to be the last question, right? Just because we need to get moved to
Sure.
another.
Could you highlight any other how often do you file charges? I guess, or is it usually just internalized? Do you often file charges at the court?
Anytime we find an issue that is criminal in nature that rises to that level, I mean, we have a lot of charges that are filed. Usually it's about assaults against corrections officers. That usually is something that rises to the level of, sometimes if there's significant assaults as offender versus offender get filed. But it's certainly drug charges as they come up, no doubt about it. Those come in, and they've happened over the years. You know, we've had several instances where drug activity has come up, and we will file charges on that, no doubt about it. And we cooperate very deeply with our Norfolk County District Attorney on these charges. And so right now it's in the Dedham District Court. It has been filed by us through a clerk magistrate, and the clerk magistrate will then determine whether or not to formally issue the matter for further prosecution.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
We'll give you copies of the press release.
Okay.
I'll email it out with those photos, right?
Okay, sure.
Clarifying one thing, so we have 2 bags, correct? Two bags, so just one on that.
What is that substance?
It's in the press release, it's
Oh.
basically like a hair gel, pomade,